Let's start with Jerod Mayo, Greg, because on this podcast and at BSJ, you have written and you've spoken about Jerod rubbing some people in the facility the wrong way. Mayo had a chance to finally respond to your report yesterday with the media. What were your thoughts?
Okay. First of all, while I look for the comments, because I saw that Andrew Callahan transcribed them all. Good job by him. Let me just tell people sort of, and I'm not sure if I've explained this, because one of the things that Jerod says, and let's go over some of his comments, some of his. He said, honestly, when that report came out, my brother sent it to me. It was more hurtful than anything. I found it to be, the timing is a little bit weird, in my opinion. And if that was the case, I feel this would have been leaked sometime earlier. He said, at the same time, I try to treat everyone the same way. I will say this. I've thought about it for a while when people talk about rubbing people the wrong way. Like, obviously, sometimes, that's part of the job of being a leader, to rub people the wrong way. If there's any change or anything like that, it's going to be painful. If someone's going to rub you the wrong way, at the end of the day, you have to look at it through all the words and really get to the substance, get to the meat of the potatoes. I know it's recent. I think it's like a week old at this point, but it triggered an opportunity for self-reflection. We all have blind spots, and maybe that's one of my blind spots. But, at the end of the day, hopefully whoever put that story out is man or woman enough to bring it to my attention to have a conversation. So that's sort of the crux of it. He went on, he was asked about it sort of twice and went on at length. First of all, to talk about just the genesis of the story. And, I know Jerod said he questions sort of the timing of it. To me, as a reporter, the timing is logical.
Right.
He wonders, and certainly I want your opinion on this, Nick, as sort of an independent observer and a member of the media. But to me, the genesis of the story was, look, at a certain point in this season, it progressed to the point, including by certain reports by Tommy Curran and others, that this was progressing, that Belichick and the Patriots were going to part ways at the end of the season. So to me, when that happens, it's Jerod Mayo is viewed differently. Okay. He is viewed as a possible successor to Bill Belichick, as the possible next head coach of the Patriots. In August and September, Jerod is an assistant coach. He's not even a defensive coordinator. He's not calling defensive plays. And so, quite frankly, Jerod Mayo wasn't even really on my radar all that much. I know we talked about he got the contract extension. Kraft, as I reported, used the phrase heir apparent with Mayo at the league meetings last year. And so, but once it got to this season, once it got past the Colts game and there were reports, Jerod Mayo is now a different person to me, or he should be, whereas, he has the ability, he has the potential to be the next head coach of the New England Patriots. Like it's time to start vetting him. It's time to start calling around, getting opinions, asking people, and really this is just the course of, in the reporting of what's next for the Patriots, what's going to happen with Belichick and what's next. And so, I'm talking to as many people as possible, inside the building, outside the building, league sources, all this stuff, to find out the answers to all those questions. And so obviously I'm going to ask about Jerod, and all I knew about Jerod, really coming into this was my sort of history with him, which I have. There's nothing in our history other than I have a great deal of respect for him. I thought he was a hell of a player. I knew that, you're talking about defensive rookie of the year when he came out. He was a middle linebacker almost immediately for the Patriots, was smart as hell, was teaching people the defense as a rookie. Obviously a leader, a spiritual leader of the team, went into business right after his playing days, then came back to coaching. And, by all accounts, A's across the board in terms of everything, talked about as a future head coach somewhere, possibly here. But, once it became apparent, or at least likely, that Belichick would part ways with the Patriots or vice versa at the end of the season, now Jerod is looked at differently. It's time to go under the microscope. Everybody goes under the microscope. It's not personal. It's not about Jerod. I've already looked at Bill Belichick. I'm going to look at Mike Vrabel. I'm going to look at Brian Flores. I'm going to look at Bill O'Brien. All of these as we get towards the end of the season and the transition period for the Patriots. So in terms of the timing, I don't think it's weird at all because, like I said, he's under the microscope now. And so it's his turn to be in the spotlight. Nobody's perfect. There are going to be flaws in every possible candidate for the New England Patriots. And, it was sort of his turn. And I'll just say, I know other reporters know the information that I've reported, and including, I haven't reported like everything to the full tilt because I didn't think it was, some of it was fair to Jerod, or I don't think it was the right thing to do as far as reporting and making sure you have certain things, correct and things that of. I will state unequivocally, I 100% stand behind my report, my subsequent reporting, which has been a little bit harder, but just dealing with his comment about the timing, to me, I think it's perfect timing because he is now under the microscope if he intends to be the successor to Bill Belichick.
FanDuel is the exclusive wagering partner of the CLNS Media Network. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
Yeah, so a lot of stuff that's out there, doesn't get thrown out there unsolicited, right? Like usually there's a reason why reporters are digging into something to see if there's a story there. And look, I think it's just obvious. Belichick might be on his way out. There's a guy in the building that might be the successor. You ask questions to people that have worked with that guy who could be the successor. Do you like him? Do you not like him? How do you feel about him? Has he changed at all? I just think that's a natural situation. I do think, as far as the way Mayo handled the questioning yesterday, Greg, I don't know if you agree. I would think you do. But I thought it really did draw a line, that contrast between who Mayo is and who Belichick is. And a lot of people want to group Mayo with Belichick because he played for him, he's coached for him. But I thought that answer in a number of different ways did show you the stark contrast between those two individuals and how they would handle a situation like this and what that might tell you what Mayo would be like as a head coach.
100%. I 100% agree with you. And I also will say upon, further reflection and listening to his comments a little bit more, I will say that I think the comments are a double-edged sword and sort of show you how Jerod Mayo can be viewed differently by different people. And let me explain. First of all, I do agree with you. I think that, look, let's just say if Bill Belichick got this question, and he gets these kind of questions every week about this report or that report, and what's Bill said? What's Bill say? Is that one of those reports from one of those anonymous sources? You'll have to ask one of those anonymous sources. And he'll just get rid of it, or I'm focused on the Jets, this. He's not going to entertain it. And I do think over the long haul, there's definitely extremes. There's a middle ground. But, as a head coach of football, you can't answer every single report that's out there. And if you're the head coach of an NFL team, there are going to be a lot of reports that aren't kind to you, and you can't just respond to every one of them. I do think it was important, and definitely I expected Jerod to answer this. But I will say I agree with your point that if people were afraid, and look, Jerod knows what he's doing. Like I said, he's extremely smart. Some people will call him calculating. Some people will call him political. I also think he has an excellent agent in Sean Kiernan from Athletes First. I think that they knew this was coming. They knew the question was coming at some point, and I'm sure there was a discussion about how he was going to answer it. And if you were Jerod Mayo and wanted to be the successor to Bill Belichick, but differentiate yourself from Bill Belichick, a guy you played, like you said, played for, assistant coach, the only place he's ever been in the NFL is one Patriot place. And for a lot of people, Joe Judge, Matt Patricia, Josh McDaniels, go through the whole list of guys who only stayed at one Patriot place and then ventured out and was a head coach on their own. It didn't go well for them because they tried to be, some of them at least, tried to be Bill Belichick. Jerod, with his answer, whether it was natural or what have you, definitely set a course that said, I'm not Bill Jr., like some people basically nicknamed him during his playing days here, that he was Bill Jr., that they thought the same way, that they were both that smart. And so Jerod's answer, just answering it, how expansive he was, how he talked about his feelings, how he reflected, how, he maybe he does come off not well to others. I mean, you couldn't get a bigger departure from Bill Belichick. So I think that served him well. However, Nick, I will say, and I'll be interested to hear your thoughts on this. Like I said, what I've reported is real. People can pretend that it's not. They can say whatever they want to say. I don't really care. I know it's real from the multiple different people that I've talked about that both before and after my initial report. This response also sheds light on people who maybe Mayo rubs the wrong way. I think in some corners of that building, the way Mayo handled this question would rub people the wrong way. Even, Bill Belichick or people who are aligned with him, in this way. The Patriots, more than any other probably NFL team I've ever been around, there is a structure. There is a what's the term? I just had it in my head about it's related to Army, a chain of command.
Yep.
There is a chain of command with the New England Patriots that it is Bill Belichick talks about all things football, and you take your lead from Bill Belichick. And when you get answers, or when you get questions that Bill would get, most of the people there would answer them similar to Bill, maybe a little bit nicer, but similar to Bill, basically like not give reports air. And so for Jerod Mayo to go on at length about a report, I could see it bothering some people in the building, and some of those people saying like, all right, well, at the end of the day, who's Jerod serving answering the question this way? Is it serving Bill Belichick, who you're supposed to be serving? You're supposed to be in service of the head coach, or are you serving yourself? And, to me, I don't know how you feel about it, Nick, but I think that if you're looking at it that way, that the Patriots have a chain of command and a strict structure to their football organization, you could make the case that this was a self-serving answer for Jerod Mayo. Now, I don't disagree with it. I love it. I'm glad he answered it as a media member, and I ain't going to complain. But I'm trying to shed light on, how a report like mine can come to light, how people can tell me these things. I would say that this answer could show you how it could be viewed differently in different areas of that building.
If it is viewed that way, then I think it speaks volumes of Belichick, how he handles his operation. And I would also say that if that ruffled feathers and you happen to be somebody who believes Belichick will acquiesce in any way for 2024 to stay, well, if that's how he felt about Mayo's comments, he ain't changing. And I'm one of those people that do not expect Belichick to change. I do not expect Belichick to walk into Kraft's office next week and say, all right, give the power to somebody else. I'm just going to sit back and enjoy coaching. You know me, Bill Belichick, the guy who just lays back and loves to just coach and not worry about anything else. I go back to years ago. I have a friend, and this friend told me, because try to follow this. My friend had a friend who worked there and with the Patriots. And I learned years ago that Belichick knows everything in that building. Mm-hmm. And I mean, we're talking about the nutritional staff. We're talking about the custodians. He knows everything. He knows who picks up the garbage at night. So he is very aware of everything with his surroundings and how he wants these things handled. And there's been stories out there how he speaks to the team to make sure that he'll bring the employees at the facility in front of the group. And there'll be this whole, thank you kind of thing, and ingratiate the team with the guys and women that work behind the scenes. So he's all aware. And he loves to have a hand in pretty much everything. That's why I don't think he's ever going to be willing to step back here in New England, because he's built this thing the way he wants it. And that just goes into what you just said, Greg. Like, if he looks at the comments by Mayo, he's like, Jerod's not with the program. He's not sticking to the program. Okay, now let's look at this in a different way. If you bring an outside president of football operations, or even if somebody Bill knows, and they have a press conference, that GM is going to say what they want to say, and they should say what they want to say without, thinking of, the head coach might not like this. Bill might not like this. This might cause some friction. So I think Kraft, Greg, I don't know about you, but if I'm Kraft and Belichick looks at those comments and feels that way, to me, that's even further reasoning why I can't have this guy in the building with a different power structure.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Nick. And I would also say that, I don't blame Jerod Mayo for answering the question the way that he did. And I think he knew full well that this was sort of a job interview, that the Crafts are listening, that they're listening to that, and that, this would appeal to them. But, I also think that, it can, that's what, if I was Jerod, that's all I would be focused on. Pretty much the chances is that Belichick's done here. And I do think Jerod is very, and this goes to also pointing out how he can, quote, rub people the wrong way. I do think he's been singularly focused on being a head coach in the National Football League. I'd point to you that he interviewed, I think I look back, I think this was in 2020. This is when Jerod Mayo was in his second year as an assistant coach, and the Houston Chronicle, Aaron Wilson was there at the time, did a humongous takeout on Jerod Mayo as a possible next head coach, which I just looked at. I was like, what? This guy's in his second year as an assistant coach. And I just know, I know that, well, I'll just leave that aside because you're always thinking about how you're going to get aggregated. But let's just say that Jerod Mayo has been he's been singularly focused on being a head coach. He is aspirational, and I think his answer to this question, which I thought was great, certainly entitled. I don't have a problem with it. I do think that's what he had in mind, that if it wasn't just the Crafts he was speaking to, he was also speaking to other NFL teams that might have head coaching opportunities.
One more thing about this. God forbid somebody has ambition. Not worried about Jerod Mayo being focused on being a head coach one day. If that's the dude's goal, then that's his goal, and he should be focused on that. That's number one. Number two, at this point, when you're coaching a team that has 4 wins with 1 game left, you should be concerned about yourself. You should be focused on number one, and you should be lining up your next gig just in case you get fired. Like that. That's the way this world works. No matter if you're in journalism, football, whatever you do for a living. He's in a situation where this whole thing could get turned over. So yeah, if I have an opportunity to answer a question that puts me in a great light, that might help me take that next step in my career, especially with the circumstances he's dealing with, I don't have a problem with it at all. Finally, I'd say this. There's absolutely...
Nick, just real quick, but before you make your last point, I just want to say you are 100% in the real world, you are 100% correct. But one Patriot place in Bill Belichick's kingdom, that does not go over well. So I just wanted to point that out.
Fine. King Belichick's led me to a 4-12 season, whatever. Here's what I would say. I would also say this, that there is, no matter what the reporting has been, that Greg has shared, others have shared. Football, I do know, is a results-based business. And if I'm Mayo, here's my response. There's zero indication that any of this has impacted the product. This defense has still played well without Judon, without Gonzalez, and others like Jabril Peppers recently. We are holding up our end of the bargain. I'm coaching. I'm game planning. These guys are prepared to play. We're doing the best we can. So you can say everything you want to say about it, but defensively, we've been much better than that offense. So maybe Bill O'Brien should start rubbing some people the wrong way. Maybe something should change there.